Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are taking the sources you provided and really pulling back the curtain on one of the most brutal parts of public life.
The weaponization of your own personal history.
Exactly. This isn't about policy. We're looking at a fascinating set of sources that show what happens the moment a private life crosses into political ambition. And we're using this case study of a person the sources call Daniel.
It's such an essential deep dive because what these sources give us is this almost clinical look at how this information architecture works, not just on opponents, but on the candidate themselves.
And the central idea is pretty stark. The sources just state it flatly. The moment you step into politics, your past becomes someone else's.
It's almost a warning, isn't it?
It really is. And we need to unpack that because we're not talking about, deep state secrets or criminal records.
Oh, not at all.
We're talking about every decision, every mistake, every argument you thought was totally forgotten. The sources show Daniel realizing that nothing in his life ever really goes away. It's just waiting.
Precisely. And politics isn't about erasing the past. I mean, that's impossible. It's about controlling the narrative around it.
Making sure your story is the one people hear.
That's it. Our sources detail this step-by-step process. It starts with something that feels like subtle curiosity, just a quiet hum in the background, and then it just escalates into this forced, managed public perception event. For you, the listener, this is basically a blueprint of how background research turns into a narrative attack.
So, okay, let's start there. At the very beginning, how does this whole scrutiny thing even kick off from the inside?
Well, according to the sources, Daniel first notices these small signs, just an increase in attention.
Right, it starts with more calls and more interest. But it's the kind of questions that set him on edge. They started to feel, what was the phrase, too specific.
That specificity is the tell. It's the key indicator that the professional lens is now on him. The sources show this really clear shift. The questions, they weren't about his vision for the city or his views on trade.
No, they were about him.
Exclusively about him. Where did you work in 2008? Who is your business partner on that venture that failed? And why do these 3 months between jobs not quite add up on your resume?
Wow. That sounds like a psychological pressure test disguised as just, due diligence.
It absolutely is. And this is where the source material is so adamant. It says, curiosity in politics is never innocent. Every question, no matter how polite it sounds, is the start of an investigation.
And it's an investigation designed not to verify facts, but to find vulnerabilities.
Exactly.
So what comes after that first wave of curiosity?
Right.
Because you expect some vetting, but the sources point to this specific language that Daniel found really chilling.
Yes, it's that professional mask the system wears.
Yeah.
He gets a message from someone he doesn't know. It just says, we're doing some background research, just routine.
Routine.
And the sources give us this cold definition of that word. They say routine is the word they use when they don't want you to panic.
Which, of course, makes you panic immediately.
Yep. Of course, it institutionalizes the fear. It's a bureaucratic way of saying, we are now dissecting your life and you don't get a say in it.
And that realization just pushes Daniel straight into the next stage, which sounds, honestly, exhausting, the self-reckoning.
It's an almost involuntary response. This professional scrutiny starts, so he immediately starts retracing his own life. He starts playing detective against herself.
Trying to find the things they're going to find before they find them.
Right. Trying to figure out what seemingly harmless detail could be twisted and weaponized.
Let's get specific, because the sources list out the exact things Daniel was worried about. And they weren't scandals, not really. They just felt like vulnerabilities.
We see 3 main things that he obsesses over. First, there's a job he left years ago, and it was under some tension during a management change.
Okay.
Second, a business partnership. It was financially clean, but it failed and it ended badly. Some bruised egos were left behind.
And the third.
The third was a moment of public frustration, just a heated argument he had at a city council meeting about zoning. It was captured on some local cable channel years back.
So a messy job exit, a business failure, and a moment where he lost his temper in public. I mean, none of those sound like front-page stories that would end a campaign.
And that is the entire point. This is where the political analysis is so different from, say, a legal one. The sources stress that none of this was criminal, it wasn't even that dramatic. But the core insight is this. Politics doesn't need crimes. It needs narratives.
And that's a dangerous definition, isn't it? I mean, how do the sources justify this? Focus on a fast story over a complex truth.
Well, they're clear that the political process rewards simplification. You see, a crime is a fact. It requires proof, a narrative. A narrative is a simple, flexible story that only needs repetition to feel true.
So that job he left under tension. It won't be reported as, a complex disagreement over strategy.
No, it'll be distilled into a headline: Daniel abandoned his post, or failed management leads to employee exodus. Something simple.
So the opposition isn't looking for facts to prosecute him. They're just looking for friction points that can become a soundbite.
Yes. And this is the aha moment for you, the listener. The goal is not a factual prosecution in a court of law. It's creating a simple, sticky story that fits in a headline and damages his reputation.
It bypasses the rational voter and hits the emotional one, the one who just absorbs the headline. Daniel is unreliable.
Exactly. The past isn't weaponized because it's evil. It's weaponized because it can be simplified into a damaging soundbite, no matter what the nuanced truth actually is.
And of course, the cost of all this goes way beyond just the professional.
Oh, absolutely. The sources detail this immediate and brutal personal cost. The scrutiny doesn't stop with Daniel. It inevitably starts to reach his family.
The picture the sources paint here is pretty tough.
Yeah.
He's trying to handle these calls, and then suddenly the scrutiny reaches his family.
And you see the impact right away. His spouse is asking, why are these people calling about something from 10 years ago? His kids start noticing old photos of him resurfacing online, but with these strange captions.
That's the moment the violation becomes real, palpable. It moves from an abstract threat to this concrete stress in his home.
And the sources have such a stark observation here. Politics doesn't ask permission before it enters your home. That personal space, that boundary Daniel thought he had, just dissolves. It was annihilated the moment he decided to run.
So in this moment of rising panic, he does what anyone would do. He goes to a trusted advisor, a veteran named Richard. He's expecting, some concern, some reassurance.
But he gets the opposite. He gets this unnerving calm.
That calm is a lesson in itself.
hmm
Daniel wants empathy, but he gets strategic calculation instead. Richard is just completely unperturbed by all of it.
He is. And his counsel is just, it's a defining moment for Daniel.
What does he say?
It was simple, cold, direct. Daniel expected Richard to help him defend the truth. Instead, Richard gives him this sort of immutable rule of politics. If they can't find anything, they'll invent something.
Wow.
And Daniel realizes this isn't advice to comfort him. It's not a solution. It's preparation. It's reorienting him to the reality that this is just continuous combat.
And that realization that they'll just invent a story if the real one isn't good enough, that leads us right to the turning point. The point where Daniel is asked to clarify something, and he crosses a line that changes him.
This is the moment the whole architecture of perception management shifts from an external pressure to an internal compromise. And it doesn't happen with some big lie.
No, it's a small thing. A closed-door meeting about a discrepancy in expense reports from that old, failed business, just a minor technical error.
Exactly. And he's asked to clarify it, but it's the terms of the clarification that matter. The sources are so specific about the language used.
He wasn't asked to lie.
No, not to lie. He was asked to simplify the complex history of the business, to leave out context about who actually authorized the expense, and most importantly, to avoid nuance.
To avoid the kind of explanation that takes 3 paragraphs to get through. The machine wants something streamlined for public consumption.
And he hesitates. We're told he knows he's stripping away the reality of his own history. But he complies.
And his justification for it is just pivotal, isn't it?
It's everything. His reason wasn't because he felt guilty. His reason was he now understood this devastating new dynamic. Truth takes longer than headlines.
Nuance and fact-checking just can't move as fast as a simple black and white story, so he chooses speed over accuracy.
And this is the crucial analysis. That choice reveals his transformation. He realizes that in this environment, factual accuracy is less valuable than the speed and clarity of your message.
He has that unsettling realization that he didn't defend himself. He managed perception.
And managing perception, as the sources note, is what separates the players from the victims. It is, and I'm quoting here, a skill politicians are rewarded for.
Absolutely. The sources track this so carefully. They show how the line moves not all at once, but inch by inch. That small act of omitting nuance for a cleaner message is the first step.
It's a complete transformation. The system rewards you for controlling the story, not for sticking to a complex, slow-moving truth.
So what does all this mean for Daniel going forward? The sources have a pretty profound conclusion about what power really is in this world.
It's a powerful synthesis. Daniel's final understanding is that politics doesn't destroy you for having skeletons in your closet. It punishes you for letting others control the story.
So power isn't about being clean.
No, it's about being prepared to manage the narrative around whatever they find. That initial scrutiny, it didn't destroy him, it just changed him.
So what's his final takeaway, his new perspective?
From that point on, the sources say Daniel knows nothing is private and nothing is accidental. Every detail, every interaction, it's all subject to immediate narrative control. He's learned that the real battlefield isn't the policy debate, it's the management of his own history.
So our final thought here is that when you step into that public arena, the goal shifts completely. It's not about policy anymore.
It's about achieving total narrative control. The true political fight, it starts long before any votes are cast. It begins in this perception battle with the compromises you have to make just to survive it.
That's the perfect context for the final line from the source material. We see Daniel, having made that first compromise, now heading toward his first real political fight, where he's about to learn that losing early is part of the design.
A chilling thought.
It is. And it raises an important question for you, the listener, to think about. What does that even mean for strategy? If initial failure is actually built into the political process, if the system is designed to chew you up the first time, what lessons about resilience and long-term strategy might Daniel learn from that design? The kind of lessons the veteran Richard already knew.
A great question to end on.
Thank you for sharing the sources that allowed us to dive so deep into the architecture of political scrutiny. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.